Going on, everybody? Smitty from around the 412 here with another previewing the opponent. It is Rams week as the Pittsburgh Steelers head to SoFi Stadium to take on the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday afternoon. And anytime you talk about the Los Angeles Rams, still to this day, the first two names that you got to talk about: Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. So we're going to talk heavily about those guys when discussing each side of the football. I think we should start with the Rams offense first and foremost, because that to me is going to be a very interesting thing when you look at the Rams wide receivers, how they're going to match up with Pittsburgh's secondary. Cooper Kupp, let's just start there, right? I mean, lines up in the slot a lot. They can move him outside. He can certainly do that as well. But if they want to get the best possible matchups, it's going to be interesting to see how they use him, Nacua, Atwell, all on the field at the same time. Minkah Fitzpatrick has played a lot of slot corner this year for the Steelers, a lot more than we've seen him in the past. He's probably going to surpass his total very soon from last year already in terms of slot snaps this year. And that's just been a product of the way that they need to deploy him within this defense. They just haven't been very good in that area when it's not him deployed there. So you look again this week, Cooper Kupp, I think Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to see a lot of him. I still, we've been kind of pounding the table, I feel like, to get Minkah back in his spot where, you can kind of move him around, do some different things, half field safety, deep quarters, robber, doing a lot of different things for them. And you can keep the quarterback guessing as to where he's going to be lined up at. Again, on Sunday, I don't think that that's going to be the case because I think they need to try to use him to neutralize Cooper Kupp to the best of their ability. So I wouldn't look for Sunday to be the time to change that, because you look at the Steelers secondary outside of that. We've been pounding the table for more Joey Porter Jr. I do think that we get that. Levi Wallace, Patrick Peterson, they haven't played to the level that I think that they're still capable of, like at least, especially in terms of Levi Wallace. Patrick Peterson, I guess at this point in his career, you can start questioning if there's just no gas left in the tank, but that would be a drastic drop off from where he was at in 2022. Maybe just not the best fit within the defense of what the Steelers are trying to do, because Patrick Peterson was still very much a serviceable player just a season ago. So what's happened this season? A lot of questions on the back end for this Steelers defense, but certainly Joey Porter Jr. does need to play more. Desmond King no longer in the picture. You would assume that we see Patrick Peterson slide into the slot, but again, I just don't think that this is the week where we're going to see a ton of that deployed. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to see a lot of slot reps again this week, knowing that Cooper Kupp is going to be lined up there a ton. What does that mean on the outside with, the likes of Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, who, Puka being a 5th-round pick, Tutu Atwell was a 2nd-round pick that seemed like it was a absolute draft bust for them as recently as the beginning of this season. I don't think people really came into this year with a ton of expectations for what he was going to produce in 2023, but they've been a really good, solid wide receiver trio when on the field together, and I think the Pittsburgh secondary is going to have their work cut out for them. Curious to see how they're going to deploy it. We know that Pittsburgh, defensively, they're not going to like shadow guys. They're just going to line them up, and whoever they're lined up against, they're going to trust that they can, take that assignment. Other than, again, I do think Minkah Fitzpatrick going to be keying heavily on Cooper Kupp. So is Joey Porter Jr. going to see more of Tutu Atwell? Is he going to see more of Puka Nacua? And how's that matchup going to go? I'm not expecting Joey Porter Jr. to start this game per se, but I do think that he takes another leap in terms of snaps played. On the interior, old friend Kevin Dodson, obviously playing really good at guard for them this year, and they got pretty high draft pick, 2nd-round pick, and Steve Avila at the other guard spot, who I really liked coming out of TCU, and I'm curious as to how they're going to match up on the front there. I think Pittsburgh needs to win those one-on-one matchups against those guys on the defensive line, because I don't think that TJ is going to see a ton of, one-on-ones. Like, why would he, right? Especially when you look at the tackle situation there, it's not the same as it's been, when you had Whitworth and a better version of Rob Havenstein on the other side. So, are they going to keep Tyler Higbee in to help block? Are they going to do running back chips? I mean, this offense has ran 11 personnel more than anybody else in the league, 94%. We see 11 personnel from them. They use the 4th most motion as well at like a 65, I believe, 65% clip. So, I mean, this offense is going to throw some different things at you, and it's all really, again, you look at Cooper Kupp as what makes this offense go, but Matthew Stafford has bounced back from injury, I think, way better than I expected for sure, and I'm not sure how many people really thought he was going to get back to form. Can't really look at the box score on this. If you turn on the tape, though, you can tell that he still is one of the better pure football throwers in the National Football League. Stafford still got it, and I think that that's what's going to really cause some problems on the back end for this defense. Got to have the communication down. Got to throw some different looks at him, but above all else, you got to get pressure on him. And then, you could say that literally every single week as a key to success. But Stafford still will turn the football over if you can create pressure. So Alex Highsmith on the other end, TJ still obviously, we expect him to be able to beat those matchups despite not getting one-on-ones, seeing double teams. But really the interior, I think if those interior guys, if Keanu Benton, DeMarvin Leal, Monty Adams, if those guys are able to create some pressure from the inside and collapse that pocket, then I think, the Steelers can get something on the back end. The linebacker play is going to be key to me as well. I mentioned Tyler Higbee, who might have to stay in and block a lot. Very serviceable pass catching tight end as well. Who does he see? Does he see a lot of Keanu Neal, DeMonte KZ, or does he see one of the linebackers, Cole Holcomb or Quan Alexander? It's obviously not going to be a Landon Roberts. The running game is a big question mark with no Kyron Williams. They've been pretty solid at running the football despite who it is. McVay hasn't been like a huge committee guy. It's just like whoever is there, typically he does get the most out of, but it's not necessarily a by committee approach. So, with the running backs they have there now, and Zach Evans, who's a very young player out of Ole Miss, if Darrell Henderson's going to be a factor in this, it's going to be curious to see if they are able to run the football. But if the Steelers can eliminate that element, put them into a situation where they have to pass and you can get pressure on him, that to me is going to be how you get it done on the defensive side of things. On the offense side of things for the Steelers, Aaron Donald, right? They've actually moved him around. He's not playing as much defensive tackle or nose tackle, I should say, this year as opposed to past years. He's moved around a lot more. He's lining up over guards. He's lining up over even tackles at times. He's playing some DN. So they're moving him along that defensive line, trying to create the best matchups for him. He does have 2.5 sacks this year. Obviously doesn't tell the entire story with Aaron Donald and all the pressure that he creates. So you got to do your best to neutralize him. I still, as of the time of recording this, we still don't have a 100% certainty in terms of who we're going to see play left tackle for the Steelers. It's been looking like it's going to be Dan Moore Jr. getting back into the lineup. And, I could probably create a whole nother video just talking about that decision by the Steelers. But, Mason Cole, to me, has been the worst member of that Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line to this point. You should be getting James Daniels back, which I think is a welcome addition. Granted, he hasn't played all that well up to this point this season, but, maybe the injury is almost kind of a blessing in disguise for him to reset. Isaac Samalo, I feel like, has started to come on, after a rough first couple weeks. I feel like he's definitely played better. And Chuka Okorafor just is what he is, man. Like, you're not expecting anything more. You're certainly not expecting anything less from where he's at. Really good pass blocker. He's a net negative in the run game. He just kind of is what he is. Certainly, to me, it should be his last season in Pittsburgh with what he makes next year and what you can move on at. But I am obviously very concerned with how they're going to neutralize Aaron Donald. But Byron Young's been a really good edge defender for them, too. I think playing above where I thought he would be at this point. He has 3 sacks on the year, but again, that's not even telling the full story. He definitely pops when you watch the tape on this Rams defense, which if you just look at their team, right? If you just look at the depth chart, not a ton of names per se, but definitely Raheem Morris getting the most out of them. I think they're playing well above their talent level at this point this year. Mike Tomlin talked about it. They do a great job kind of keeping the lid on the defense, not letting anything get past them. Very similar to the Steelers, honestly, playing a lot of bend, don't break stuff, catch and tackle defense with the defensive backs. Speak to the defensive backs, old friend Akella Witherspoon, definitely playing really well within that Rams defense right now. Darian Kendrick, we'll see about, was arrested, was back at practice, though. It seems like if he's back at practice, to me, he would be playing, but that's not a guarantee. We will see what happens if that's not the case. Jordan Fuller on the back end, I really like. John Johnson's back there. Obviously not the same version of John Johnson. He's a little bit older now. I think Ernest Jones is a very solid linebacker for them, too. So, like, there's good players. It's just they're not, like, household names. You know what I mean? And that's why I say they're playing above what you would think when you look at that depth chart. I think a lot of it has to do with Raheem Morris, though. Play 6 defensive backs a lot. They like to play a lot of man. They trust their guys to play man. I think, and they play 2 high safety. So again, they're just keeping the lid on things and doing a really nice job of limiting teams to field goals and keeping them out of the end zone more often than not. So for the Steelers offense, I do think it is a secondary that you can't attack through the pass. But it's really going to be about what happens when we get into the red zone and money downs. Are the Steelers going to be able to win in those situations offensively where they obviously haven't been able to for several seasons now, more often than not. But to me, that is going to be what tells the story of how Sunday's game goes for Pittsburgh. Are they able to do that? Are they able to get into the end zone as opposed to relying on the leg of Chris Boswell, which has been a very consistent leg? I'm glad to see Chris Boswell bounce back this year, but certainly they need to find a way to get into the end zone this year, or in this game, I'm sorry, as opposed to to kick in 3. So that'll do it for me. A formal prediction, I do think the Steelers win this one, but it's going to be like a weird score, I think. I think they do a good job of keeping LA out of the end zone as well. They might give up some field goals in this game, but it's going to be a weird one. I'm going to say like 21-16. I think the Steelers go into SoFi and get one. It's kind of like something has to give, right? They don't travel well to the West Coast typically under Mike Tomlin, but also they're very good out of the bye under Mike Tomlin. So something's got to give on this one. At a 21-16 Steelers. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Go watch another video. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.